Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Here we are, Nico. What's up?
All's good. What about you?
Fantastic. Thank you. So a lot of great news this week, and there is some protagonist right now hosting on the show. So I'm excited to talk about the news.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly. All right, let's get going. Without further ado, let's start with the biggest raise actually of the week. First one is Imagestudio, raising 6.6 million in a round led by Vintage Capital. So this is an interesting company actually. I was checking. Basically, they're focusing on managing digital assets for companies, visuals in particular, and they're streamlining the process of actually, organizing the shooting and then organizing them properly in shared folders so people can actually work with that. And sounds like
exactly.
They've been also raising from very interesting investors across the different spaces. So I thought it was a good catch for sure. Very interesting.
They're a very good team. Actually, the current version of the product is the result of a pivot, because they started out a few years back with a platform for photographers, so basically a marketplace for photographers and users who want to take photographs. So we are seeing a quite advanced evolution of that model, quite good. I believe in Europe they have the French competitor who's leading the way in this market. That's Miro. And that startup has raised hundreds of millions, I believe.
Wow, impressive.
But they are doing very well. Consider that they started only in 2018. This is probably the third round raise, I believe. The second one was with Innova Ventures a couple of years back. What to say? Very good.
Yeah, awesome. And I think it's definitely on the funding rounds, like size, as we can say, like a Series A, I would say in Italy. It's pretty much in the space in terms of volume. So that's an interesting benchmark to always keep in mind a little bit.
Good point.
Yeah, just to keep track, because valuation change all the time, round size they change all the time, so that's important to keep an eye on it.
In the article, if you read the article with attention, you will see that it says that they raised 6.6 million, of which 2 million invested by Vintage Capital. And with those 2 millions, Vintage Capital acquired 8.45% of the company capital. So we probably have an idea about pre-money and post-money.
Good point. Say. Yeah, good point.
See if I say 0.0. Let's do it.
You're doing the math. So 8.45.
If that's true, it's 23.5 million post-money.
Yeah. Interesting
indeed.
Interesting. It seems on the high side though, I would say. Maybe.
It's 25. They acquired 25% of the company, more or less, for the 6.6 million. So it's I don't know in terms of absolute valuation. I don't know the valuation of the company. But in terms of capital, it seems like it follows the playbook.
It follows the playbook. I like that. It's approved. We approve it. Approved. All right. Moving forward, same sort of area in terms of raise, since 6.6 million British pound actually, from a Turin-based therapeutic startup working on heart diseases and led by Claris Ventures. Claris Ventures, big player in the Italian ecosystem for sure. And we've been talking about them for many episodes, and this is in this month is the second sort of health tech deal. So that's called a Hequet or something. I don't know.
I have no idea.
It. So I apologize. Heqet, yeah. What is interesting is that we've been pretty much seeing like a ton of like therapeutic deals lately, especially in the beginning of these like first quarter. So that's been interesting, and they always manage to raise like very good rounds. So if
I would say it makes sense. I know nothing about medical research, but I believe that you can't do that much with a few $100,000 euros or pounds.
Yeah.
So in order to actually go deeper into the research, usually we see these rounds.
Yes. The other interesting point is that it's a spin out of King's College, right? So that's...
Yeah, I took that article because it was in English and so easier to read for everybody. But at the very beginning, I was pretty sure that the company was not Italian. But then I read on the website that it's Turin-based. I believe it comes from King's College because one of the professors in the King's College is Italian and is one of the I don't know whether co-founders or somehow behind the idea developed by the startup.
Yeah, that's based on this research on basically heart disease in the Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology in Trieste, and then kind of moved to King's. So, yeah.
Look at that. Patents have been licensed to Heqet Therapeutics by King's College. So there's a patent behind that, and it's owned by King's College.
So great example, actually, of Italian like scientists launching interesting project that get funded.
Yep.
Awesome.
And the IP is owned by a UK university.
Exactly. It's a good combo.
A bit of the sad part of the story.
Exactly.
Well, I'm very happy for King's College, but not so much for Italian research.
Abroad, stealing ideas. Okay, going back to Brescia, let's go back to Banca Valsabbina acquiring 9% stake in Opstart. This, I thought it was very curious, and thank you for pointing it out, because banks, we've been talking about Italian banks in general, some kind of taking the easier route of acquiring like shares in already launched like fintech startups, maybe close to bank services just to enlarge the service base. But we also have some interesting plays like Banca Valsabbina actually getting a small percentage, I would say, of a crowdfunding platform. So that tells me that they're really exploring alternative ways to finance companies beside the classic sort of bank playbook and bank way of doing things.
Yeah. The funny part, the interesting part actually, is that I have never heard about Banca Valsabbina before. Started a newsletter actually. This is not the first time that they acquire a minority stake in a fintech startup, because they already did the same with Credimi. Good point. So this is actually a more complex.
Yeah.
It's actually diversifying in minority stakes in startups operating in this line of business.
Yeah, I mean, they're not too common, but they're doing really well in building a strategy, like a tech-oriented strategy. So it's awesome. It's probably like we're gonna see them moving.
Probably the thing that I wonder is what do you do with this type of minority stakes? No.
Yeah.
So of course, probably the easy answer is you start developing some commercial partnerships with these startups. But did you have to acquire a partnership for a stake to do that? I have no idea. So I mean, it's interesting, the idea of becoming a minority shareholder and then developing a partnership with the startup. So
feels exploration. It feels very exploratory. Just getting a stake so they can actually look under the hood and see what's happening in the fintech space. That's the best way to do it. I mean, you support the ecosystem, and at the same time, you see probably how banks are going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's I love this strategy, honestly.
Just to give you some numbers, I was looking now. Banca Valsabbina has closed 2021 with a net profit of 39 million euros.
Okay, wow.
So not a huge bank, but still profitable.
Yeah. No, profitable and quick and nimble. It looks like it's even if it's local, it's really forward-looking, I would say. Interesting. I'm expecting the next deal to be a crypto deal. So Banca Valsabbina, if you're listening, that's where we want to see you moving.
You're right. That's a good direction. Yes, very good point.
All right, but let's go to the news of last week. Primo Digital closing 62 million euro to invest in Italian seed and early stage. And our Niccolò is one of the GP with some of the big names in Italian venture. So first of all, Nico, congrats. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I know it's a lot of work. So how does it feel? Give us something.
Well, it feels good in the sense that we managed to launch the fund, and it feels challenging in the sense that now we have to deploy the funds, so to make the investments, and it's going to be quite of a hectic period going forward now. We want to reach 80 million euros in terms of fundraising, so we will have a good year ahead of us, continuing to hit the road and talking to LPs. And then we are starting with our deployment. So we will talk about our first investment in a couple of months, I would say.
Okay, so you have some stuff lined up for us, and then of course, it's how long do you think the deployment is gonna take? Do you guys have some expectation on that of this first closing?
Well, the plan is to be the classical 5 years investment period plus 5 years divestment period. So yeah. I believe we will complete a good amount of deals in the first 2 years.
Nice.
Our goal is to get to 25 startups in the portfolio, more or less.
Yeah.
We try to close. The average is 5 per year, but I believe we will be a bit faster in the first couple of years, and then we'll see how it evolves.
Beautiful, Nick. Congrats to you and all the
team.
Thank you. That's gonna be fun. A lot of work, but fun. All right.
Indeed.
Maybe let's do something like deeper with Gianluca or with Antonio, or just to get some insights. But I'll wait for you guys to start moving, and then we can go back to you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, another great news. Talking about Startup Studio, a model that is actually booming in Italy, I believe, and it's moving really fast. Friends from Mamazen, Farad and his company are really doing a great job in pushing this dual entity model. And it's an awesome way to actually build a startup studio where basically, for the listener, they have a startup studio launching their own companies, but at the same time on the side, but yet completely independent, it's a holding company that actually has the capacity to invest to actually push the growth of the companies, but not exclusively from the studio, but also for other deals. So it's a very interesting play into the very early stage model. So they've been raising a decent amount of money for Italy, for sure, and they have a very interesting institutional investor. It's a Colombian investment fund, I believe, kind of trying to leverage the access to Europe and especially in Italy. So it's probably a great way to do so. And these guys are cranking and moving really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have much to add to what you said. Farad is very, very good, a great worker. He's been launching Mamazen and working on it like crazy. So I expect to have a lot of conversations with Farad actually about the startup that they will launch in the coming years.
Awesome. What do you think of the studio model in Italy? Because I was doing a little bit of research, just to also do some honorable mention in terms of other studios that are up and coming, or they've been like actually building a little bit of the ecosystem. One is Startup Bakery that is mentioned in the article. Also working with a vehicle investing. So it's a nice way to actually moving the ecosystem forward. And then the second one is Full Capital, which is sort of the investment arm of Full Farm, which is also pushing into the studio ecosystem, like a lot of new ideas with a lot of new creations. So it's in the venture space. My feel is that there are a lot of people sort of loving or hating the model. There's not mean ground. It's kind of controversial in a way. I don't know. I'm debating. I have an internal debate on that.
Me too. We are quite early in terms of startups that are doing things that exited a startup studio and are doing things on the market, because all of them are probably at the most a couple of years old. Full Farm is from last year. Startup Bakery, I believe, even more recent. So it's hard to tell now. The problem, if you want some, there are some issues if you want to apply the standard venture capital rule book on selecting startups. One of the things that you sometimes might encounter when you meet with startups coming out from startup studios is that there are no founders. So the studio is the one who created the startup. So there is a professional CEO. So the equity may be split in a way that's unusual for a VC-backed startup, in particular at the seed stage or at the early stage. And that creates probably some friction when you apply the standard rule book to things that are coming out of startup studios. So it's probably a matter of education on both sides. Sides, and finding the right way to implement the model, and to, in particular, get the team involved in the startup and align in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the US, where startup studios have been basically working since the 90s or the early 2000s, and then you start seeing like great examples from Idea Lab and forward from those guys. I think by the time you get like a really good, like sort of, I wouldn't say unicorn, but at least like some companies are raising like substantial amount of money in the next, as you say, 10 to 15 years, then the model probably will be validated. And that's the paradox of venture investing. If you're good only like 20 years from now. So then there is no other way to know if you're good or not.
Exactly. But the market right now is so fast that it can kick you out before you prove anything.
That's a good point.
So in particular, if you are a small structure such as a startup studio with limited revenue streams, so you have to somehow sustain your structure. And then what do? You might end up choosing to sustain startups that are quick in generating revenues, but that doesn't mean that they're good for VC. So it's complicated.
It's a lot. You have questions also, not really answers. Awesome. So what I want to bring also on the table is this great report made by Forward Fooding about the status of FoodTech. That's a very, very interesting piece of information. They're basically mapping all the agri-tech and FoodTech ecosystem, and they're providing some ranking according to some database. And they've been doing that, and it's a great job in terms of data point for all the FoodTech investors out there. especially in the European ecosystem for sure, where actually it's datas are missing, and these guys are really doing a good job in providing great insights.
Yeah, it's a good repository to understand what's going on with agri-tech in Europe.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the numbers, but from a related article I was reading, there are 24 Italian companies in this list this year. I haven't explored them all, so
yes,
but we know they are there.
There is a presence, strong Italian presence. That's good.
There is a
awesome. So and with that said, I think we're touching the half an hour. So Nico, thank you very much for joining. These are the latest news from the week in Italian startups from last week. So thank you, Nico, for joining. And for the people that didn't subscribe yet, please join Nicolo's newsletter, and then join the conversation here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
See you online. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.